Castle! The menace of Moonstar!
11 amazing classic cartoons perfect for reboot. The cartoon and animation enthusiasts fondly remember the 80s and 90s for some iconic shows. Those who have not been acquainted with the quality of cartoons from that era cannot imagine what they're missing out on. Those were the good old times where quality content triumphed over advertising and gimmick. One might wonder, what if the current audience got to experience the glorious shows from the 80s and 90s through a reboot? Surely some of the shows back then were so ahead in their time that they would be just as entertaining as before. But at the same time, reboots do not always turn out as we expect them to be. For instance, the recent reboot of Thundercats was disastrous to say the least. To reboot a classic cartoon is a task. There's no reason why a reboot cannot attract a wider audience base in today's times. We bring to you some of the classics from the world of cartoons that would be a genuine treat for the fans if a reboot was to be made of them. Swat Kats, 1993. Swat Kats was a fascinating adventure where two masked vigilantes protected the town from the evil forces. Oh wait, there is a catch. The vigilantes are felines. In fact, the town consists of these feline creatures, and the two protagonists are members of the city's law enforcement force. They are called Jake and Chance, and after their pursuit of the villainous dark cat goes wrong, they are grounded to the military salvage yard. That, however, does not dent their zeal, and soon they set up their own high-tech jet using the discarded parts and save the town in their secret identities. Swat Kats was 2 seasons and 25 episodes of pure joy. There was a lot of violence that displeased some people, but the storyline was impeccable. The terrific music of the show complemented the plot, and the intense episodes were packed with action. The voiceovers were also perfected, and it is almost criminal to have just 2 seasons of this mind-blowing entertainer. High time for a reboot, we say. Silverhawks, 1986. Science fiction that involves fighting evil aliens has always fascinated the fans. Silverhawks was no exception as it narrated the story of a bionic policeman named Stargazer. He recruited members who were part real and part metal, and this force was assembled to fight the evil alien mob boss. The villain in Silverhawks was quite a spectacle and could transform into an armor-plated creature. The adventures of the organization Silverhawks as they hunted down this evil force formed the basis of the story for this cartoon. It was thoroughly entertaining to watch the cyborgs in action. The best thing about Silverhawks is that although it was made in the 80s, it had the animation quality to compete with the best in modern times. The villains were quite the characters, and despite the inaccurate science, you could enjoy the show for the gripping story. If such a gem was brought back via a reboot, the audience today would absolutely devour the content. The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest, 1996. Cartoon Network has nothing to show for as far as the contemporary shows are concerned that could even compete with the quality of The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest. This popular cartoon show featured the protagonists Jonny Quest, Jesse Bannon, Haji Singh, Dr. Benton Quest, and the bodyguard Race Bannon. The team sought out to unravel the mysteries of some exotic places and investigated the unnatural and paranormal phenomena. Their adventures made for a thrilling watch as the audiences stayed hooked to this show. As the heroes battled international criminals, the fans admired the action-packed episodes that promised nail-biting stories lasting for 2 seasons. The animation was really good, and the storyline never allowed a dull moment. The characters were close to the hearts of the fans, and it's disappointing that such a show didn't have a longer run. Nothing stops a reboot, however, and if it is successfully made, the kids would flock to this show. Savage Dragon, 1995. A green-skinned mutant with amnesia is the protagonist of Savage Dragon. He is named Dragon and he wishes to uncover his identity. He is discovered by a cop from Chicago and soon he joins the police department to battle the evil mutants. These evil mutants are led by the Overlord and the task is to stop them in their mission. The Overlord wishes to take over the city and the Savage Dragon is all that stands between him and success. The voice acting is decent and adds the humane touch to the show. The plot is the real hero and the stories are carefully woven to keep the suspense alive. There's a lot of violence and action sequences that will make you gasp. This is not just another superhero story and has unique elements that would make a reboot widely successful.
Let's take this rich head down! Hey!
Biker Mice from Mars, 1993. We can bet that when you think superheroes, you do not picture 3 alien motorcycle-riding mice. That is the level of creativity in Biker Mice from Mars, where the 3 protagonists are mice. They are from Mars and they had to leave their own planet due to the evil mining Plutarchians. Now they are on the Earth and they seek revenge against their enemies on this planet. The 3 mice, Vinny, Moto, and Throttle, entertain with their adventurous journey and make this an evergreen cartoon. This cartoon packed quite a punch with its rich content that had elements of action, comedy, and drama. The voice actors did a fabulous job and the exciting story was lapped up by the audience. The animation is pure nostalgia and the quality background score makes Biker Mice from Mars all the more enjoyable. Too many people are awaiting a quality reboot for this classic. Gargoyles, 1994. To begin with, gargoyles were creatures that turned into stones during the day. These nocturnal beings had spent 1,000 years in a petrified state and somehow were transported from medieval times into the modern New York City. Hence begins the adventures of gargoyles as they become the protectors of the city during the night. What set this show apart from the others was the dark tone and the complexity involved in the storyline. The depth of the characters was surprising for a cartoon and there was more to the show than mindless action. The show ended a long time ago and even today it enjoys a cult following. The theme strayed from the usual Disney content and the fans loved this show for the new things that it had to offer. This would certainly be one of the greatest hits if we had a proper reboot made today. Samurai Pizza Cats, 1990. This cartoon show had the storyline that is as basic as it gets, yet it had enough content and was perfectly penned to make things entertaining throughout the series. The premise was based upon 3 cybernetic cats who ran a pizza place, but they had a secret identity where they protected the city from the rat Big Cheese. This power-hungry creature had evil intentions that were foiled by these heroic cats, and how much simpler could it get than cats taking on rats? There were 52 episodes for this show, but it never felt dragged. The crisp style of storytelling caught the fancy of the viewers and the animation was decent enough. The fans of anime also enjoyed the show and the hilarious content had everyone in splits. The light humor and the focus on aspects like love, friendship, and emotions added a human touch to the show. It's a forgotten gem in the world of animation and a reboot would be the perfect gift for the fans. It's times.
Turn them into clay people.
Mordor! Tabsalu!
Wonderful.
Defenders of the Earth, 1986. As the title suggests, this is another story of forces protecting the Earth from the evil powers. It narrates the tale of Flash Gordon, the Phantom, and Mandrake the Magician as they formed the forces protecting the world. They were joined by Lothar and their children, and together they had to fight the evil Ming. The unique factor in this show was how it united different comic book characters in a single show. The good pace of this show was one of the key factors that made it so entertaining. The brilliant music was the icing on the cake as the gripping plotline held the attention of the viewers. Defenders of the Earth was one of the basic cartoons for kids that had elements like fights, getting into trouble, and then emerging out of trouble. The makers packed enough firepower for this show to never fizzle out, and even today a reboot would set the TRPs booming for such content. The Centurions, 1986. The story of the Centurions is set in the near future where a mad cyborg scientist wants to conquer the Earth. He harbors hopes of turning the inhabitants of the Earth into robot slaves and has an assistant in Hacker, his companion. He also had various types of robots assisting him in his plans. All that stood between him and his evil plans was a unit of elite soldiers. These soldiers were armed with various transportation equipment and weapons that were teleported from a space station. As far as adventure cartoons are concerned, there are few that can match up to the quality on offer by the Centurions. In the absence of modern technology, the makers toiled hard to give you the perfect special effects, and they did not disappoint. The deep characters add to the charm of the show, and a reboot would be a treat for the cartoon lovers. The Centurions is a fine example of how a simple story can weave its magic across the viewers. Dino Saucers, 1987. Funny dino saucers were creatures that resembled dinosaurs. They had powerful allies in the Secret Scouts, and this group of protectors had an uphill task. They were up against the evil Tyrannos, and their battles formed the crux of this entertaining animated series. The show Dino Saucers had 65 episodes, and each one was more entertaining than the last. The show was ideal for the kids who looked for a lighthearted entertainer. There was action, drama, and generous doses of comedy in this cartoon that won millions of hearts around the world. The voiceover acting was perfect, and the story had no loose ends. The true winner was the simplistic plot that was so much fun to watch. If there was to be a reboot of Dino Saucers, you can be sure that the kids would absolutely love this kind of content.